Hello. I was looking at the commentaries last week and came across an unusual word, casuistry. It means the clever but false reasoning, particularly on moral matters. There's a lot of it about today. You can find all sorts of ideas on the internet. And it seems it was very prevalent in the first century too. As we look at the letter of Jude, verse 3, where Jude wanted to write to his fellow Christians discussing the salvation that we have in common, but he said, I find it necessary to write appealing to you to contend for the faith, because godless people had infiltrated the congregation and were spreading sensuality, and they were denying our Master and Lord Jesus Christ. Now, Paul warned about similar matters to Timothy in 1 Timothy chapter 1 and verse 3, and he wanted Timothy to stay in Ephesus so that you may charge certain persons not to teach any different doctrine. They were devoting themselves to myths, genealogies, pointless philosophical discussions. And in Galatians, we have something similar. He writes in chapter 1 and verse 6, I'm astonished that you are so quickly deserting him who called you in the grace of Christ and are turning to a different gospel. So what sort of things were going around at the time? Well, the Jewish Christians were insisting that you had to keep the Mosaic law, had to be circumcised and so on. You couldn't eat with Gentiles. And even Peter and Barnabas were carried along with this. So in chapter 2 and verse 11, Paul said that he had to oppose Peter to his face and say, look, you're not living as a Jew anymore, so why are you forcing the Gentiles to live like Jews? And he went on to explain that the law of Moses was leading to Christ, and now they were under the law of Christ. And also in 2 Timothy, we have where Paul was talking about a couple of men, Hymenaeus and Philetus, who have swerved from the truth, saying that the resurrection has already happened. So we'll find all these sort of things in the Christian religion today. So how do we protect ourselves from it? Well, I'll use the Trinity as an example. Trinitarians will point you to John chapter 1 and verse 1, where it says that the Word was with God and the Word was God. So does this teach a Trinity? So first of all, we look at the context, and the very next verse says that he, the Word, was in the beginning with God, and everything was made through him. Verse 18. No one has ever seen God. The only God who is at the Father's side has made him known. Jesus was at his Father's side. At no point did Jesus ever call himself God. The Son of God, yes. So how do we understand John chapter 1 and verse 1? Well, you will recall other verses in the Bible which speak of Jesus praying to his Father and how much God loved his Son. And that'll keep us on the right track. And then we might look at the Greek. Now, it's not really necessary to do this, but it's an interesting example. And I'll read you a literal translation from Greek to English. In beginning was the Word, and the Word was toward the God, and God, notice there's no the, was the Word. Now, I've emphasized the definite article the reason being that in Greek, the definite article, is used far differently to English, and Greek doesn't have an indefinite article, that's a or an. So when you're translating, you can't simply go from one Greek word to an English word. You have to look at the sense of it because the thinking is different in another language. You'll note that there's no the before the second mention of God, which gives it a different meaning. Now, Jesus was definitely divine. He was the highest person in the universe apart from his Father. A wonderful example for us. God loved him dearly. So, look at the context, think of other verses that you know, get to know the scriptures well, and you won't be misled by casuistry. That's clever but false reasoning. If we can all stand on our own feet and not be swayed by various and sensational ideas that we see either on the internet or from other people. Thanks very much. Oh, by the way, these flowers are evidence of climate change. I've got them all out of my garden, and it's December and I've never had that before. So, just a small thought. Thank you so much, and God bless you all.